Welcome to the Three Beards Podcast. My name is Craig, along with Chris and Austin. That was a much better opening, sir. Welcome, everybody. We are talking about Bigfoot,
Sasquatch.
Many tales from all over. Pretty much around the world. This is a cryptid that is kind of well known. Known by as Yeti, Abominable Snowman. We'll focus.
Sasquatch.
That's right. Yep. We're gonna focus more on the North American version, Bigfoot, Sasquatch. So this one, typically about at least a third, if not more, of the sightings all take place in the Pacific Northwest, where I'm originally from. That seems to be kind of the hotbed, where Northern California, a little bit in Nevada, if you go then up into Wyoming, Montana, up into Canada, that whole section right there seems to be the large area where a lot of these sightings take place. Why? I don't know if it's just because the forest, there's a lot more cover, would be a reason why Sasquatch would pick this. Maybe it's the area, so it's a lot cooler. That could be part of it. I mean, but there's still sightings down here in the south. And it's commonly referred to as a swamp ape, even though it's a smaller, animal. And that's, a lot of people believe it's more on the smaller side down here in the south, whereas you get up to the north. Typically, I think these things are referred to as about 8 feet plus tall.
6 to 9 feet.
Yeah. You can't really hide anywhere.
6 to 9 feet.
The typical.
You can't hide anywhere down here, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's, I think the typical foot is about it's about 24. It can be anywhere up to about 24 inches long and about 8 inches wide. Is what.
That's what she said.
Yeah, so it's like fairly large foot. It'd be a little hard to pull that one off, even though there has been hoaxers that have worn, prosthetics to make that happen.
I think Shaq's
for centuries. I don't think it's 2 feet. It's a size 24 or 25, but that's not inches. 2 feet, man. That's huge. Those are water skis. Even for Shaq, man. That is just monster long. I can't even put it on the screen. So for centuries, stories have been passed down from generation to generation of very large, hairy, ape-like creatures that can walk upright. And usually, the weird part is when people see them, they're seen. It's it's a fleeting glance. Like it's people will be driving, then they'll look over. And kind of like what Chris just did, they'll just look over and they'll see it. Yeah, they'll see a Sasquatch. And they're like, "Oh my God, what was that?" Well, some of the sightings can be, could be a black bear. It could be, elk. It could be deer. It could be something that you see. But a lot of people, you can look at videos on YouTube. You'll see something go across the road, and there's the way it walks. There's no way that's a bear. Because bears will go upright for a brief moment, before they plan to charge, but they don't actually walk on their hind legs. So this is what leads people to think it's something else. But the crazy part about the whole thing is where, and this has always been my thing. It's myself. I got the sign right here behind me. I've always been a believer in it. The thing that's always interested me is with all the infrared cameras, you got trail cameras, you've got all this stuff where I go, we never capture an actual, Sasquatch walking in front of these trail cameras. And anybody that hunt, a lot of these guys like to go out and they like to set up these deer cameras to see where their feeding patterns are, to know where to look at going. And so here we've got, these creatures that they're not showing up on infrared. I mean, we're seeing raccoons, we're seeing deer, we're seeing elk, we're seeing cougars, wolves, coyotes. I mean, we're seeing all of this except for the Sasquatch.
I mean, if they're kind of like human-like, like people are kind of describing half human, half animal, don't you think they're smart enough to stay out of the way of the camera? I mean, if you see, oh, that's a trail camera. I mean, they got to be intelligent
Well,
if they haven't been spotted. I mean, if they've been
yeah,
spotted, but they.
yeah, I would say to a point, yes, but a lot of them. I mean, I know you've seen a trail camera, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, for anybody that hasn't, I'll see if I've got something in my office here that kind of looks. I mean, some of them, like this little case right here, some of these trail cameras won't be any bigger than this, and they'll be camouflaged, and they're strapped to the tree, so they'll be dark green with just a circle cut into them. So these aren't. It's not like you have this giant like CCTV camera sticking off of a tree.
No, I
So,
know, but
I mean,
the infrared,
you could see
the infrared thing.
Like the light, yeah. But some of them don't even have it. They just have like a night, they just, all it does is it just snaps a photo as it walks by. It's not a constantly running film. It's motion activated. So as soon as motion's there, click, motion, click. And so you come back, like I said, there's none of these pictures, and they would be crystal clear. You wouldn't have any of this blurry, weird shape thing that we get from a lot of these photographs. And a lot of people, that's been one of the biggest problems, especially for anybody that kind of believes in it. They look at it and they're like, well, this is evidence right here that we should have seen something by now.
Yes
so
and no.
We'll get into but a lot of the evidence that's been found predominantly is footprints. We went through that. That's easy enough to fake, but there's been some where they've actually done the casts, and you can even see, fingerprints on your finger. They could, like your toes have those. They can see the skin marks inside the footprint. So if somebody went to the trouble of faking this footprint, they went through a lot of effort to actually make it look, realistic. I mean, without the realm of possibility, no. But
no.
Most people, when they're going to fake something, they're not putting a whole lot of effort into that. And then clumps of hair have been found, and a lot of times that ends up being black bear, some, raccoon, some other animal that it gets tested, or, it ends up being Bob's hair that he cut into a clump and try to pass it off as, Sasquatch. I cut up. I'm like, I take quick. Look, I found me some Sasquatch hair. Right here, Sasquatch. And the problem is those are the guys that make everybody else look like idiots. Is what we have. And those guys drive me crazy because, like I said, I want to believe. I mean, the picture's right behind me. I want to believe. It's just. But as you see guys like this, it doesn't help. I mean, when you have Cletus jumping on there saying, "I shot me one and it's in my freezer," you're like, "Okay, show it to me." Oh, the freezer went out, and unfortunately, Uncle threw it all away. You're like, okay, one, probably didn't have anything, and two, you fit every stereotype, and now we look even worse. I mean, I use it all the time. Bobo from Finding Bigfoot. My favorite episode that I like to make fun of is when he's got on this log. He's laid out everything that he knows is Bigfoot's favorite food because of all raiding campsites. So he's laying out Snickers bars, bacon, Oreos, potato chips. He's laying all this stuff out. I'm going to leave this out. That's the junk food from his trailer. I mean, these are his favorite snacks. These are Bigfoot's favorite snacks. So I'm just like, this isn't helping. This is not helping. But it's just, and then you got the people that claim that Bigfoot communicates by banging sticks against trees. And so you're going out in the woods, and all of a sudden you hear this, and everybody's like, Bigfoot's so they grab a stick and then they're whacking the side of a tree, and I'm like, this is making everybody think we're idiots. I'm like, it's I'm trying to remember the name of the show. There's one that's coming out here, and they actually started using, you know, thermo, you know, thermal
No, we
cameras.
do have some idiots.
And yeah, they're actually starting to use more technology. Like they're actually trying to go out there in more of a scientific approach than just going out and like, oh my god, I heard something. That's got to be Bigfoot. Well, that's not how this works. So I don't know. I mean, there's definitely been some recordings of sounds that when it's analyzed, most experts I've seen that looked at it, they're like, I can't identify what that's from. Does that mean it's from a Sasquatch, a Bigfoot, or is it some sort of animal that was in a distress at the time, just made a different sound, because it's hurt? We don't know, but it's definitely, you can hear it out there. And I mean, there's been times I've been out in the woods and I'll sit there and I don't know what it is. It's kind of like that. It's that primal side of you. Austin, he goes out, and I'm sure you've had this thing where you're walking out in the woods, and all of a sudden you just feel the back of your neck stiffen up,
Dude,
It's
and
like
it
something's
was
there. I mean, I
yeah,
felt that when I've been
dude,
hunting. It's like you're like, what is it?
there,
Oh my god, what's there?
that happened
yeah,
like 2 years ago. I was walking through the forest. So I was by myself, walking a new trail, and I'm using a 1942 Russian Nagant. So I have an old bayonet on this bitch, and I'm like, something don't feel right. So I put the bayonet out and I put it on. I'm walking around with a fucking like a 3 foot bayonet now. Like something don't feel right out here, man. I don't know what it was, but no, man.
yep.
You never know, especially out there. You're like, I
So
was talking about.
was that a Bigfoot? Was that no? But there's times when you're looking around, you don't hear anything. I mean, it could be just cougar, but you know that there's something, and that's as we talk about cryptids, little sidebar. I've always believed that for these tales, throughout generations, there's always been something that's an underlying cause of why people come up with these stories. That there was something in that because there's times. I mean, as a people, we go outside, we're uncomfortable at night. We're always, you're on edge because there's something deep down inside of you back to the time, maybe it was caveman days where you know creatures would jump out and attack you in the night. But we have that nature where it's just when we're by ourselves. I mean, like right here in the house, not a big deal. You're walking through the hallway, you hear something snap, you're like, stupid broom fell again. You go out in the woods, oh my god, I'm gonna die. And you're sitting,
Yeah,
you're
man.
grabbing every weapon you have. You look around, what was that? And you're freaked out. And it's like you should know what it shouldn't be that way, but there's something in us that's just like you're instantly in that you're in that guarded position where I got to get my back up against something and I got to look around and figure out what that sound was.
It's
Hey, we did that. We go hunting in the same area, every year, and we went into a well known bear like area in the woods, and we were sitting right by the water. We heard a weird noise. I was like, we're gonna die. We thought it was a bear, and then turned out it was a deer. But you never know when you're in the middle of the woods. We hunt the same woods every year, but it's different animals come through, so you don't know what's in there.
Yep.
Rarely see anything, but something could change. Nah, man, it's
Now,
crazy out
have,
there.
have you guys ever seen the Patterson Gimlin film?
Mm.
It
uh,
is the holy grail of visual evidence. That's
the
that
holy
grainy,
grail.
that's that grainy film that you see where the guys they're off in the distance and you can see this down trees, and then all of a sudden here comes Bigfoot walking through. You can see that the picture behind me. That's what that image of Bigfoot, the whole with the arms back and it turned its head. That's where
Yeah.
that image comes from, because that's what you see. You see this creature walking by upright, arms swing, and then all of a sudden it turns and stops and lifts its head right over at Roger Patterson and Robert Bob Gimlin, and then it turns back and continues to walk into the tree line. So this lasted for about, I want to say it's 53 seconds or so, this film, and it's been largely tried, picked apart, looked at. This can't be. But as many people that are trying to debunk it, there's other people like it looks legit. I mean, they've had
The
anthropologists
mylar.
look. Yeah, yeah. Well, they've had them look at it, and they're like, if somebody was in a gorilla suit, because this was filmed October 20th, 1967. And they said, so if this was somebody in a gorilla suit walking out in the thing, they said whoever did it knew the physiology of like a primate and knew how to move because the way that, and that's what's always been the biggest thing. They're like, the way that it moves actually looks like it's not human in a suit. And
Do you
so,
believe there's a whole Sasquatch family?
see, that's where it's always hard for me because people ask, it's like, well, if you believe in them, where are they? And I'm like, that's what I
In
don't
the
know.
woods. In the
Well,
woods.
once again, why is there never a photograph on a trail camera?
That's what I have a problem with. This is one conspiracy that I've never pushed for because of technology nowadays. We're bound to catch something. I understand the woods. There's a lot of woods, but there are so many people hunting all the time, just riding, walking. We're bound to come across it, but nothing has ever popped up.
And that's in kind of I kind of left this out, but one of the theories is that Bigfoot doesn't spend a lot of time on ground.
He's in
Trees?
trees.
He's
He
he's up in the
climbs.
trees.
Yeah.
And so most
Well,
of us, like the trail cameras,
uh,
aren't up in the trees. They're
No.
they're down at our level, somewhere around the 6 to 5 foot range, maybe a little higher, like even your tree stands. But they're scaling up the tree, and they're actually, think of it like Predator in the Predator movies, that it's going from tree to tree, and that's
yeah,
how they move. But
I
the thing,
mean,
once again, there's no satellite imaging. There's no, you think you just pop down infrared and you're like, ooh, what's that thing out in the middle of the woods? It's not there. But there's also been, you get some of the more obscure ones, like it's an interdimensional creature that, has, there's, the reason why it's so sporadic in seeing is that it's a bleed over and they're able to pass through like a portal. And then we see them for a little while and then they're gone again. And that they're not actually
I
native
can buy
to this.
that.
Yeah, they're not native to this, this time, this thing, but they somehow are able to cross over occasionally, and that's how we run into them. But there's also, is it a subterranean species? Because there's always been rumored that there's a cave system. Could it be a subterranean species that occasionally comes above ground?
yeah, maybe.
I mean,
That's,
I'm just thinking that 8 to 10 foot, between 6 to 800 pounds. Do you realize how much food he would have to eat to sustain life? I mean,
yep.
and then you mentioned something earlier where you said they're smaller in Florida. Yes, I mean everything's smaller in Florida. The deer's smaller, the
Hmm.
bears are smaller. So I mean, yeah, they got to be adverse to the terrain here, the heat. He couldn't be 800 pounds here; he'd be dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have shot him by now.
So and we don't have a cave system here in Florida. There's
No,
not
it's
this big
water.
subterranean cave system down here because there's not you don't have the water table. But
One of the most spotted. When are the most spottings? Do we know? Like
There's
wintertime, summertime.
it's kind of, it varies. I mean, we were just actually talking about this a couple weeks. Those sightings that were up in Washington, they actually found that one of them they think was a cutout that was put there. But the thing is, like you said, with the cutout, didn't they see if it's on camera? Didn't they see the guys putting the cutout there?
Yeah, I mean,
So I don't know. It's one of those things again. The guys that are trying to fake it are the ones that make it look bad for the people that actually. They're like, oh, you believe in Bigfoot? Oh dear God. And you're just, it's like, I want to believe. I want to believe. It's I I don't know. I
It's
just
hard. It really is. Like I say it's hard, but I don't know why. I'm still a firm believer of mermaids. There is zero evidence, just like
mhm.
Sasquatch, but I still believe there is something I think I believe more of that because we still haven't ventured off into the ocean, and that's harder to do than it is to do on land. So maybe that's
Not,
why. But
not really. I mean, there's deep, dense patches of woods that the only
yeah,
way that can be accessed is by helicopter. I mean, yes, people hunt, yes, people ride four wheelers, people horseback, but there's still woods that I mean, Craig coming from Oregon, the big hills. There's still mountains that people dare to try to get down in the ravine, or I mean, so he could be just that smart, like and just hide so we can't find him. I mean, people, well,
let's
animals have a little bit more credit than people give them. I mean, creatures are pretty smart. I mean, I
Yeah,
let's start a GoFundMe. All right, everyone, we're gonna start a GoFundMe, and this is gonna support for all three of us to fly in a helicopter with infrared and just look for heat signals all across the forest. All right,
and just try to figure it out. We're gonna end up
GoFundMe
coming
this thing
across
right
some
now.
pot crow, get shot down.
Getting across someone's property.
Yeah.
the
Once
meth
again,
lab with all the heat.
once again, Cletus is going to be out there. The black helicopters! Just shoot us down, and all we're trying to find is Bigfoot. We're just up there all happy, and they're like, "Oh no, we're getting shot
we're, we're on your side.
at!" Yeah, it's like great. Now we're going
We're
to be in
on your
Cletus's
side.
freezer. He's going to be. I got me 3 Bigfoot. We're going to all be in his freezer. It's not going to be.
Mhm.
Oh,
No,
jeez.
no.
No.
It's once again evidence. There's no bones. Bones are never found. You know, they that's played off. Animals like squirrels, chipmunk. They like to eat the bones, so
The
that's
buzzard.
why. But we still find deer and elk sheds. Those are still found. Even
Hmm.
a year later. So obviously, there's not thousands of big feet running around. So you know, so it would be a little more sporadic to harder to find one. But how come we're not coming across the skull? How come we're not coming across this gigantic, like 8-inch long pinky toe? If it's a 2 foot, foot. I mean, it's just, you'd think you'd come across something by now, and that's the part I don't, that I can't, you know,
It's going to be a government made, thing.
Ma-
And their government's going to come, like, we're going to launch Space Force and launch a bunch of other stuff. And they're going to release this. And we're going to be like, oh, who cares about Bigfoot? We have this. It's going to be
mhm.
one of those things.
Maybe,
They're going to start releasing all the aliens and crap like that.
maybe they live like
I don't know.
maybe they live like turtles over 200-300 years, like the big turtles that's be like this big.
Mhm.
Maybe they live like turtles, and nobody who in our generation has seen the bones because they live like turtles. So the average Sasquatch might be 300 years old now, and he's
Yeah,
still in
no,
the woods.
I mean, there's just there's so many, we look at, like you said, there's no evidence. But once again, like when we started this out, I was saying there's been generational stories. I mean, this is going back to the early Native American tribes that were here. They talked
Yeah.
about these creatures, and one of the other weirder ones was Bigfoot was like the dog, or cat to the Anunnaki, the giants,
Hmm.
and so this was
Yeah, that's true.
So basically, think of it like Han walking, rolling around space with Chewbacca. This is the Chewbacca on the side. So they're, here they are roaming around. So these were, that was one of the other ones, is that this was the Anunnaki's, pet, and this is where it got out. But there's stories from, like I said, early Americans. I mean, you go over to India, Nepal, up there, with the Yeti. I mean, we're talking ancient cultures that have told stories and depict these giant hairy creatures. And so, obviously, a Native American in that time is going to know the difference between a black bear, a grizzly bear, and this Bigfoot. They're not going to confuse the two.
Now,
Hmm.
do you think that they made it because obviously the kids know what black bear, they hunt them and stuff like that? Do you think that this is just like a scare tactic back in the day? Like, hey, here comes
See,
Bigfoot, it's gonna take you
it could
away, and that's
it
what
could have been
it
it could have
started.
been it could have been. I mean, it's just, but and that was one. It's
Yeah.
just, as they're depicting these things, it's like, was it just folklore? Was it just done, like you said, something? to use as a scary tale that that kept going, or was this something that was seen, is still seen? We're not really sure. Like I said, there's no, just like the mermaids. I mean, we have this thing where we're like, I think this is the case, but yet we don't have any actual physical evidence has that we've been allowed to see. I mean, there could be. I mean, we could have complete Bigfoot
Yeah.
skeletons sitting in some, military warehouse locked away because they don't want, because that's been the biggest, thing behind a lot of conspiracy theories is, this stuff's known, it's hidden from us, the giants, this history, why? It's because it's not part of the narrative, and how they want to control what things are known. But I'm a believer. I don't know why. I don't know why. I really don't
Okay,
know.
I mean, I am too, but this is a story that really got me puzzled. On October 23rd, 2010, a hunter said about 7 a.m. he parked his terrain vehicle and he seen a Sasquatch maybe about 10 yards ahead on the trail. 10 yards. I mean, you have a high power rifle.
That's pretty close.
10 yards away. Don't you think you would have shot it? I mean, you don't know if it's a deer. You don't. I mean, obviously describing this depictive creature, and you say it was 7 foot tall, about 500 pounds, and it was muscular, covered with dark fur, long arms, slightly hunched over. And he says, "I've seen bears before, or whatever." But my thing is, wouldn't you have shot it? You got a rifle. I mean,
No, I see. That's one of those things. Is why does
Yeah,
cleaners
but
always got to shoot everything that's unknown? I saw me a grave, bam. I saw me a Bigfoot, bam. I
I
saw me a little thing that I think might have been a cat, but I think it was an alien species, bam. I mean, everything is shot. You're like, how about we study it, please? Let's
But
study
no,
it,
if you get it,
please.
you can study it. That's my thing. If you kill it, you can study
It's
it.
dead. Maybe it was a super intelligent. Hey, Chris, how are you today? I'm walking around looking for berries. No,
bang.
it's dead. It's dead. It's
But see,
gone.
because of people like you, we'll never know.
Have you ever played the
You're
game Red
saying,
Dead? Have you ever played the
huh?
game Red Dead Redemption?
No, I have not.
There's
I'm
a
not a
there's
gamer.
a
It's
there's
fun.
a hidden egg in there. It's a little side mission. You can find Bigfoot, and so when you end up tracking it down and you shoot it, then there's this whole sob story of, I'm the last of my kind. You've killed all the rest of us. And the whole thing you're looking at. That's exactly the point. Here's this intelligent species, and what was the first thing we did? Ooh, you're scary.
Bang.
Bam!
Well,
Not
see, look.
anymore.
But he could have shot him in the leg or something, and tried to capture this
Busted an
creature.
artery.
I mean, I'm just saying, like,
I know.
how credible is your story if you have a rifle, you see it 10 yards away on a trail, and you can only describe this creature about 500 pounds and 7 foot tall, but you seen it? Why you didn't
Let's
shoot
see, look.
it?
Why can't we be Elliots and let it phone home? Why do we have to be the killers?
Beep, beep, bo,
So
oh.
listen, I think I told the story before. It was either this year or last year. We were going down to our little trail, and I saw something, and I was like, "What is that?" And I immediately grabbed my rifle. Like Chris said, I grabbed it. I thought it was a deer.
Mhm.
But when we got closer, I had the binoculars up, it took off. But it was a big body. It couldn't have been a turkey. It could have been a deer. It was something else.
It's a fat
And
ass human.
when we drove down there, it was gone. So I could be seeing things. I don't know
Mhm.
what, but like just like that. I
I
mean, I
think I
thought I saw
remember
like
you
a
telling me that
person, and so
story.
Why didn't you
you
put
never
your
know,
scope?
man.
Why didn't you put the scope on it?
Well, it was. I'm looking at straight into a truck windshield, and I'm not replacing a windshield, so I
If
couldn't.
it's Sasquatch, I'm shooting it. I'm gonna be. You realize how rich we're gonna be?
Excuse me, Craig. Sorry I just shot through your shoulder, but I had to get that Bigfoot. It hurts. No,
Well,
You're gonna
no,
shoot some guy in a ghillie suit.
no. Was there
God.
anybody else in there that saw that?
Austin, talking to you. Was there anybody else in the thing that saw the Bigfoot? Well, anyways, but yeah, the guy. If I was the guy, I would have shot him, point blank. If I see him, I'm gonna shoot him. Then I'll have people like you on the news. Well, why did he kill Bigfoot?
Yeah.
He killed Bigfoot.
I'll be like, what did he say? Well, he was like, well, I can't believe you shot me, so I shot him again. I wasn't going to have any of that back talk. it's it's like you're not back into so Austin's back. So I was asking, did anybody else see that with you, or was it just you that saw it?
It was me and my father-in-law, and he saw something quick, but he's driving, so he's not going to see. But I have the better eyes of both of us because we were walking down a trail one time, and I had to look to my right, and I'm like,
He was
that's a
driving.
deer. And he didn't see it at first, so I had told him, like, hey, squat down and squint your eyes. And it was a big female body deer, but I don't know, man. It's hard to describe because there's turkeys out there, there's obviously deer and bear, but, like, it looked human, and it was just like a black figure and took off. And I was like, what the hell was that? But you don't know, man. I could have been. It's first thing in the morning. I probably was tired. I don't know, but
No, but that's what
it's the woods, dude.
That's what most of the sightings are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There are encounters like that along the roadways where it's just as you're driving, you see something move, and a lot of people describe it.
Yeah.
They're like, it was hairy, it was large, it could have been a bear, but like most of them said, it didn't move like a bear. It
Yeah.
was large. So I mean, that's the closest thing that we know of. And so is it another species that nobody's seen? That's the part we don't know, and that's where this lore of Bigfoot comes in. And the greatest mystery is that it keeps coming to the same thing. It's like, what is it going to take to get some concrete evidence? I mean, because the last thing that we have of an actual legitimate thing that we can look to and say, I think this was that Patterson Gimlin film.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have another idea. Ready? We're gonna start a GoFundMe, and I'm gonna need all our followers to send me money to replace my paycheck when I leave my job to go sit in the woods for 6 months, and I'm just gonna walk the forest for 6 months, and I'll write down everything I see, video everything, and I'll find evidence.
That
The
would,
only way it's gonna happen if we have continuous filming somewhere.
I mean,
That's it.
with droppings and stuff. I mean, when most experienced hunters they follow deer droppings, they follow bird droppings, they follow this. I mean, nobody's found droppings of this. I mean, like,
Only
to
thing
get
I've
their
seen
DNA.
is bear droppings. And that's it.
yeah, and
Only thing we've ever seen.
and that's the thing, without knowing any of the physiology of this animal, you don't even know how. I mean, for all we know, it could regurgitate its waste like an owl does. I don't know if you guys know how owls do. They create pellets.
At 400-pound creature, you're not creating pellets. That's a big dog.
We don't know. That's why I said. So I mean, for all we know, it's it's coming out as a completely different. It's not being dropped like. I mean, most likely it is that way. But that's the thing is, they haven't been seen. The only thing that we have that's an actual crystal clear shot is this Patterson film, or little brief, 3-second clips of something running across the road. That's it. But we don't have this. Here's this creature. There's this creature sitting here looking like it's eating something. I mean, we don't have any of this evidence of how they eat, what they eat. I mean, for all we know, they're an herbivore that forages, just like bears do, going around for small game, berries, doing stuff like that. Because like you said, you look at the size of a bear. Bears are eating a lot of stuff, but they're eating small animals, fish. So Sasquatch could have a huge diet of fish. It could be eating salmon just like a bear does. We don't know because we don't have any way of saying this is clearly a dropping from the Sasquatch. Now we can take it and analyze what's in it. We can see something. We can man, that is a large pile, but we don't know for fact, what animal it came from. And that's been, I mean, I know they found hair samples where when they've done the DNA testing on it, they don't know, it comes back as unknown. But, what is that? Like I said, we don't know. I mean,
You're right.
I want to believe. I do. But unfortunately, the evidence, like Austin says, as time goes on and technology gets better and better, it's getting harder and harder to be a believer in it because as we get better and better at seeing stuff in the dark, seeing stuff through trees, I'm like, it's getting harder and harder for something like this to actually physically hide.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But all I know is if we do find Bigfoot and we find it,
Shoot it!
well, before we shoot it, why don't we give it an opportunity to use some Broad's beard care and try to take care of that hair? Probably a little smelly. Probably a little smelly. And then after he looks good and after the hair's in great shape, then Chris can come along and
shoot him. You think it's good?
Yeah. Chris can come in there. Chris can come there as role as Cletus and shoot it.
Then we can feed him some nanny cakes.
Yeah, broadsbeardcare.com. Go to him. Three beards is the code, capital B. Get 20% off your order. I said great products. We all use them. Nanny cakes, Nancy Burke. Austin's got a special shout out for Nancy today.
Yeah, it's definitely her birthday is tomorrow. She's on a cruise, but definitely message her. She'll get it back when she gets back from a cruise. So happy birthday, Nanny Cakes, tomorrow.
Happy birthday, Nancy. Thank you again for supporting us. Appreciate it. Guys, everybody check us out on threebeardspodcast.com, Instagram, Twitter. Follow us, retweet, send stuff out here on Facebook. Please like, share this. Click that share button, get it to your friends, get it to people that don't know, normally see us. We'd love for them to have these 3 lovable beards in their lives. Who doesn't want to snuggle up to this? I mean, come on.
Come on.
Our wives do. So, excuse me, pardon. I got a bit of a cough today.
We're all dying here.
I know. But everybody, really appreciate it. Thank you for everything. Forgot YouTube. We're on YouTube as well.
Yep. Subscribe, like.
Yep. Subscribe, like. Gentlemen, as always, good night. Thank you for watching.